This is a video about how I fly sling loads. It's about the basics of sling load operations with helicopters and will contain the basic techniques and principles that I use when flying. It is meant as a tutorial, but that is not to say that other techniques don't work just as well. Flying sling load can be hard, but focusing on the wrong aspects is something I feel is a big contributor to it becoming harder than it needs to be, at least when starting out. I'd also like to preface this video by saying that I am in no way a sling guru, but I've flown a little bit by now, and I think I can make a few good points, especially to beginners. One important thing to note is that you can obviously not see where my eyes are going, but I will say that about 1/4 of the time is spent looking out to the sides or focusing on my peripheral vision. This is part 1 and consists of delivering an empty hook and the pickup of a load. Okay, we are ready to lift, so we're going to pick it up slowly, and then we are going to increase power and keep climbing while keeping the hook in our sling window until the hook is about 1 meter off the ground. There it comes off the ground, and now we're just going to stay and hover here for a little bit. And we're going to talk about the sight picture. Now, the sight picture is usually a term used in reference to aiming a gun, where you have your rear sights and you have your front sights, and by aligning the two, it allows you to shoot straight. So in our case, we don't have sights per se, but we are going to use a point on the glass on the sling window and align that with a point on the ground. The point on the glass of the sling window will also represent what straight down is. This point does depend on wind and length of line, and also head position. As you can see here, the cargo swing itself is about 1 meter or a little over 1 meter behind the sling window, and this needs to be accounted for to know what straight down is. And the easiest way to do this is by taking the helicopter up into a hover, keeping it in a dead hover, and then just looking down and noting on the glass where the hook is hanging. So let's look at that from the inside of the helicopter. By keeping my head in the same position, I'm going to look down through the window and see where the hook is hanging. I'm going to draw a line out from the back and then a line from the left. And where the two intersect, that is going to be my reference for what straight down is. So from now on, whenever I shoot an approach on this mission, I'm going to aim to put the blue dot there over the target on the ground. If that is done smoothly and slowly enough, with my head in the same position when looking down, the hook should end up where the blue dot is right now. This is, in my opinion, the easiest way to get consistency, because flying a little bit faster or a little bit slower on the approach, the hook is going to behave quite differently. Alright, so I'm going to move over to my Loadmaster and do exactly what we just talked about. I'm going to put the blue dot, or where the blue dot was on the sling window, over my target on the ground, which is the Loadmaster. Moving ever so slightly forward, and then he catches it. This might look unstable and like I'm flailing around without too much happening to the hook, and this is because we are located in front of and are rotating around the point where the long line is hanging down. Now, as you can probably tell, it's not dead center of the reference with the dot that we made before, but as long as you can put the point on the glass over the target on the ground, the Loadmaster is usually in range and can grab the hook. Right, in this example, we're coming in a little bit more hot, but the same principles apply. I'm going to shoot the approach and aim to put the reference on the glass on the sling window over the target on the ground, which is the Loadmaster. Now, I haven't drawn the dot on this example, but it's roughly in the same place as the previous example. Alright, so the Loadmaster grabbed the hook, so let's move on to the pickup of the load. With the pickup of the load, essentially all you need to do is keep the dot on the sling window aligned with the hook. So let's look at that in an example. This is another example from another mission where we are flying isolator cups to power lines. Not the type of mission most people start out by doing, but it will demonstrate the principle pretty well. On this mission, I'm using a 30-meter line, and the load needs to be picked up gradually, as you'll see in a bit. Okay, so this is the reference that we're aiming for. Now notice that when I start lifting, I'm going to drift a little bit to the left in relation to the helicopter, so kind of like down on the screen. And you can see when I move my sight picture away from where I want to be right over, the hook is going to try to drag the load towards where the green dot was. So here we go, lifting it up. I'm pretty good with my reference right now, but now I'm going to start to move a little bit towards the left right here, and then you can see the hook wants to return to that center point. This is a pretty minor adjustment, and you will need to apply these adjustments as you lift the load and you notice that you're drifting and losing the alignment in the sight picture. Remember here to use your peripheral vision actively. Here is one more example. This is a 42 meter line, so it's a little bit different again. But just notice the most important thing is where the hook is and where the load is in the sling window. See, now I'm drifting off a little bit to the left, and I need to get it back over to the right here, and maintain this position while he hooks on the slings, and then in a while I'll start lifting again. Drifting a little bit off to the left again. A little bit over the place. Alright, we're getting close to lifting it. There it goes. Again, when you start flying, this is probably not the type of mission you'll start out by doing, but it really goes to show that the main concepts of the sight picture remain the same, independent of the length of line, and also mostly independent of the type of load that you're going to be flying. One last example of a pickup. So this is the Heslo 4 operation, tower dismantling, where we dismantle cell phone tower section by section. We're two guys in the tower that are strapped in and they cannot run away. In this type of operation, it is vital that you keep the position over the section that you're removing at all times, because if they remove all the bolts and you have and you're pulling it to the side, you can topple it over and potentially injure someone. So this is where it really pays off to have good routines when it comes to maintaining a sight picture and maintaining your position straight over the load. This type of mission, this tower dismantling, is in my opinion the most straining on the neck, because you sit minutes at a time just looking down and waiting for them to unscrew the bolts. Especially if one bolt is kind of stuck, it can take up to 5-10 minutes, and just looking down all the time, it can get quite strenuous. And your body's natural reaction to that is to move your head back towards the left over your shoulders. And if you move your head, the reference point or the blue dot that you picked out before is not going to represent straight down anymore. So when I'm slinging, I've added it to my cross check. When looking down for extended periods of time, I ask myself, am I looking straight down? Is my head in the correct position for this sight picture?